So
Sure.
let's do some teaching right now because Yemen, I mean, the whole Middle East is hard for people to understand. Yemen in particular is hard for people to understand. Let's do the history of this real
Sure.
quick so people
Yeah.
know what we're talking about. Those who haven't followed this, which is most people actually, even political people don't know what's going on in Yemen. I mean, I don't blame them because it's extremely hard to
Yeah.
figure out. But
It is. It's a mess.
yeah,
I can do it though.
I know you
Here's
can.
how it goes.
I know you
Yeah,
can.
here's how it goes. Okay, so we're talking about the Arabian Peninsula, which is obviously everybody in your mind's eye. It's harshly tilted toward the northwest there, Persian Gulf on the east side, and Iran on the other side of that. And on the west side, the Red Sea and
Mhm.
Africa on the other side of that, right? And so we're talking about the very southwest corner there in Yemen. And for that matter, we're only talking about the western half of that because virtually the entire eastern half of the country is worthless desert anyway.
Right.
So even though the rectangle is long ways, on its side, we're really just talking about a square on the left half of Yemen, if that
Right.
makes sense.
But
And it makes it easier because there's a lot of north, south, and middle of the country coming up. But you should just picture a square little country on the very southwest corner of the
however,
Arabian Peninsula. That's where we're talking about. Go
yeah,
ahead.
but however, I believe every ship carrying oil from the Persian Gulf to Europe goes right through there, goes right past the coast of Yemen. Am I right? Isn't
That's
that,
true.
yeah.
Although nobody's threatening shipping there other than in somebody's imagination if they need an excuse. But
No,
yeah,
but if
it
you can,
is an important choke point.
yes,
Yes.
exactly. That's what I want to get
A
at.
potential one. A
That's why we
potential.
care. That's why people care about Yemen is because it's
Sure.
right next to all the oil and the shipping lanes that take the oil out. So,
Yeah.
okay, continue. That's great so far. All
Yeah,
right.
man. Okay. So 30 years ago, end of the Cold War, a dictator named Abdullah Saleh unites Yemen. It had been north and south, and the commies in the south. But now, without the Soviets, basically they had a new compromise and came together. And this guy ruled with American support for about 30 years. Now, in 2009, Obama comes into power and says to the CIA, unlike invading secular dictatorships, which didn't attack us, we want to focus on Al Qaeda. We'll go after secular dictators in 2 years, but not yet. This is still his first year, 2009.
Right.
So he says to the CIA, gloves off on the drone war in Pakistan and in Yemen.
Hmm.
And then the deal they made with Abdullah Saleh in Yemen, which the capital city, Sana'a, is right about in the middle of the country there. And the deal was you let us kill Al Qaeda in the south, in the southeast kind of area of the country. Then we'll give you a bunch of money and guns. And so he says, okay, go ahead and kill him. So they waged their drone war. Now, it's almost an aside at this point in the story, but the drone war was horrible and counterproductive and only made Al Qaeda worse and worse because a drone is not a scalpel and a 500-pound bomb is not a surgical strike. It is a weapon of mass destruction if you're on the receiving end of it, and it's your family, your wedding that's getting bombed, your neighborhood, your school that's getting bombed by these people, right? So it just made Al Qaeda more and more powerful the more Obama went after him. And I should say here that Al Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula are real ass Al Qaeda. These guys, their core were veterans of the Afghan war. They're closely associated with Osama bin Laden. They bombed the Cole in the year 2000. They helped to coordinate the September 11th attack. They tried to blow up a plane over Detroit with the underpants bomb on Christmas Day 2009. They did the Charlie Hebdo attack in France and one or two of the other massacres in France. I forget if it was Nice or the other Paris attack that they did. So these are real ass dangerous Al Qaeda guys. Okay. Not just like, oh, Al Shabaab says, yeah, we're Al Qaeda because they got a sack of money from the Saudis to say so. That doesn't count. That's like an FBI entrapment. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about real friends of Osama in this case. All right. So America gives all the money and guns to Saleh as a bribe to let us bomb Al Qaeda counterproductively in the South.
Got it.
Saleh takes all the money and guns, and he goes to war against a group of Zaidi Shiites in the north of the country called the Houthis. And that's a family name, a tribal designation, and a political designation. The religious designation is Zaidi Shia, different than the so-called Twelvers in Iran, closer to Sunnis and pray side by side with Sunnis and stuff, but a different sect there in the north. And he attacks them over and over again, 6 times, with American money and guns. And every time he does, they grow more and more powerful in response, just like us bombing Al Qaeda. It's just counterproductive.
Right.
He's rallying more and more people to their cause, and they're growing more and more powerful as a force.
Right.
By the way, he's playing a double game against the Americans, and he's backing Al Qaeda and the Muslim Brotherhood as auxiliaries to his army to use against the Houthis. At the same time, he's letting us bomb them. And then triple game, and this is in the book, he was also backing the Houthis and giving weapons to his enemies, the Houthis, for use against his own army and the Muslim Brotherhood, because they were getting a little bit too big for their britches too. And he wanted to wear them out a bit. And maybe that had a bit to do with him losing 6 times.
Wow.
But so you think the curved daggers of American politics are sharp. This is how they do business in Yemen. Okay. So anyway, then comes the Arab Spring. Right. Chelsea Manning leaks the thing and there's a riot in Tunisia. Guy sets himself on fire. The next thing you know, they overthrow the government in Egypt. And every Arab in the world says, wow, you can do that. Let's try that. And go outside and try to overthrow their dictator. Right. So they all converge on Sana'a, the capital city. And everybody agrees on one thing. This guy Salah's got to go. And there's all kinds of plans for commerce. There's so many tribes and factions and whatever. Nobody believes they can dominate everybody else, right? Everybody is trying to make deals here. And so, man, if America just stayed the hell out of it, that it might have been okay, you know? But no, so that's not how it happened. Somebody tried to kill Salah. And while he was in the hospital in Saudi Arabia, Hillary Clinton, the Secretary of State, made a deal with the Saudis. And they came in and officially did this soft coup. And in other words, instead of letting the people of Yemen do it, they forced him out and put their weight behind his vice president, a guy named Mansour Hadi.
Okay.
All right. You want to catch up on anything? Go ahead.
Yeah. The soft coup. Like, what was that? Was it the CIA directed or CIA assisted? What was that? How did that go down?
I think the Saudis handled it. I mean,
okay,
they kept him out of town long enough for the Americans to, and I don't know, that's actually a good question about the degree to which the CIA came in and put money in all the right pockets and whatever to make sure that Hadi stayed in power. But here's the thing about it is when Saleh came home, well, first of all, Hadi never had the alliance of interests and factions that his predecessor, Saleh, I mean, did I say Hadi or Saleh? Hadi never had it together the way Saleh did, right? The successor never had it together. Yeah. And so when Abdullah comes home, he doesn't retire to Mount Vernon and a quiet life of study like Mullah Omar or something like that. He takes his army with him and says, oh, yeah, well, you can't fire me. I quit, pal. And he takes 2/3 or more of the army with him. And guess what? He goes and joins with the Houthis in the north because it turns out he's a Zaidi Shiite all along. Even though he's not a Houthi, he's still sort of kind of with them. Okay. So he goes and he makes an alliance with them and starts coming south. And now, meanwhile, Hadi is terrible at being a dictator. He stays past his term. First of all, they hold a one-man election. Everybody Google this, put it in your Google images. You'll find the NPR news story about it, where they held an election, Thad, with one man and one name and one oval on the ballot to fill in. And Hillary Clinton declared that this is the invention of Yemeni democracy, finally heralding a new day for the one man. Just put in Hadi ballot. It'll come right up in your Google images there. And so then he promised to hold real elections, never did, postponed them, ended the gasoline ration. So the price went up, 100% or more, whatever it was, instituted this strong federalism program, which essentially cut the Houthis off from the Red Sea. And so that was their final straw. And at the end of 2014, everybody still with me? End of 2014, the Houthis are mad. They come down and they take over the capital city of Sana'a. They roust Hadi out, and it's the Houthi Abdullah alliance that comes and takes over the capital city again. And I guess really with the Houthis in the driver's seat, but he's still, definitely a partner.
And that was 2014, right?
Yes, very end of 2014, very beginning of 2015. And they drive Hadi down to the port city of Aden, where the coal was bombed and where the socialist Southern Transitional Council is dominant there, by the way. And they'll come into this a little bit, at least later. And they eventually drive him all the way out of the country. They take Aiden for a short time. They drive him out of the country. He's been living in a hotel on house arrest in Riyadh this whole time, man. They call him the government. Oh, he's the internationally recognized government of the country. That guy's not the government in any more than you or I are the government of Yemen. Is Hadi the government of Yemen? It's a complete joke. And in fact, even just yesterday, I was making fun of this on Twitter that, even now after they're announcing the end of the war, we're still at foreignpolicy.com calling the Houthis the Houthi rebels, even though they took over the capital city and declared themselves the sovereigns with no real competitors
6 years ago.
6 years ago. 6 years ago. They're the Houthi rebels. And who are they fighting? They don't even pretend in the article that they're fighting against, the Yemeni government, which is just some guy sitting in a hotel in Riyadh. They don't even pretend that in the article. Well, they're fighting against the Saudis and the UAE. So the guys who rule the capital city for 6 years are rebels.
Right.
And then, so what does that make the Saudis and the UAE? The sovereign government of Yemen? Is that what we're talking about here?
Right.
The whole thing, the way they construct it doesn't make any sense but there's like some black magic blood oath that you're not allowed to ever refer to the Houthis without calling them rebels. I mean, I don't know why. I don't know how they enforce this. I mean, my theory yesterday on Twitter was it must be a threat to withhold brunch invitations or something from these people. I don't know what they do to blackmail them. No matter how long these people are, I'm not saying they're elected, right? I'm just saying they're in charge. It is what it is. Well, Abdullah wasn't elected either. You didn't dispute. He wasn't the rebels for 30 years. He was the dictator of the country. And here we're talking about the same guy again, back in power, only with some friends.
Okay, so why did the U.S. foreign policy establishment not like the Houthis at that point? Because they were too close, maybe, with the Iranians? Is that it?
Well, you're just wrong, Thad. The American foreign policy establishment loved the Houthis at that point. General Lloyd Austin at CENTCOM said, "Great, these guys like killing Al Qaeda guys. We can work with them." No, but why you're getting ahead of it? No, son. You're ahead of the game by 2 months. Okay, the Great Betrayal comes in March.
Okay.
In January of 2015, General Lloyd Austin, the commander of CENTCOM, says, "Hey, you know how the Al Qaeda guys want to kill all you dead?" And then they say, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, how about we help you kill them instead?" And they said, "Let's do that. Great." And it's in the Wall Street Journal on January the 28th. And I think one day prior, Barbara Slavin wrote it in Al Monitor. And in fact, her story is even better than the Wall Street Journal article because she's covering an Atlantic Council conference where the Deputy Secretary of Defense for Intelligence, Michael Vickers, comes and gives a whole presentation and explains, yeah, man, we are sharing intelligence with the Houthis because they're killing Al Qaeda guys. So this is why when 2 months later, Obama turns around and takes Al Qaeda's side against them,
right?
It was General Lloyd Austin and his men.
Okay.
They were the ones who were talking to Mark Perry. And I interviewed Mark Perry in March of 2015 because he wrote a piece for Al Jazeera about how all the generals at CENTCOM are screaming mad about this. And he was talking about Lloyd Austin. He was saying, forget a drone strike. We got guys who have real incentive to kill these Al Qaeda guys for us. All we got to do is just help them. Like we're passing them intel. We don't even have to arm them. They can handle it for us. This is the best solution to AQAP we've got going. Right. And then now Mark Perry has a follow-up article in Foreign Policy. Lloyd Austin's not who you think he is, from just a few weeks ago, where he says, remember when I was saying the generals were mad? This is the guy I was talking about. And what he did was apparently he was going to write a letter to the president cussing him out. And the other generals stopped him from doing it. And then, of course, he clicked his heels and went along and prosecuted the war. And that's bad. But like I was saying before, that's a reason to believe that he might go back to his preferred policy if he can convince Biden to do it. That Mr. President, we were helping the Houthis kill Al Qaeda right before we turned this thing around. We could go back to that if we had it my way, kind of thing. Seems like a reasonable thing that he might say to Biden. And then, of course, there's all this other pressure on him to end the war against the Houthis. Okay. And after all, these are the guys that bomb the Cole and try to bomb a plane over Detroit and help organize the September 11th attack. They're the enemy, not the Houthis. The
So
Houthis never did anything to us. And now that was your question. So why are we mad at them then,
yeah,
right?
motivation. I want to get at motivation for all of this by
Well,
the
the
U.S.
Saudis don't like them.
Okay.
That's all.
That's it. Yeah, right.
That's it.
Right.
And so, and not only that, but public choice theory. That's what they call it. And I should really read all about this from all those guys who wrote about it. I might be using these terms wrong, but I'm pretty sure that this is what that means. There's no such thing as the national interest, not in America, not in Saudi Arabia. There's just individual men's interests inside their bureaucracy to do what's good for them. And so that means in this case, the brand new 29-year-old defense minister and deputy crown prince Mohammed bin Salman needed a war to make himself a man.